Welcome back. In this demonstration, we're going to continue work on our three-dimensional relief sculpture tile from our Egyptian symbol project. Remember in the last session we talked about positive and negative relief sculpture, and we said we're doing mostly negative relief sculpture where we are removing the material from the background so that the image is raised up. Alright, we said positive was when you remove material from the image, leaving the background untouched. Now, in the last session, I did my lowest level here, kind of in the background of this tree. And then now I'm going to work on the medium levels. Okay, and I'm going to have a couple different medium levels. Now, I've got this background area right here, which is the ground. I want this to be like almost just a hair below the level of my border. Alright, but I want it to be kind of three-dimensionally getting deeper as it goes back. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to start carving this piece away right in the front. And I'm going to carve it away so that it's just a little bit lower to begin with. And then it's getting deeper as it goes into the back. So it's going to be on a slant. So it's actually going to like give me the feel of being three-dimensional. Now, I'm going to take this tool, the one that's kind of like a 45-degree angle cut, and I'm going to use this tool to kind of flatten out my edge. And I'm going to press harder in the back and then bring it up to the surface. Then as I drag it across this surface here, I can kind of hold it on a diagonal and get that area to be more flat, and I can kind of control the depth a little bit better. Okay, now I'm going to dig more of this out. Digging out a little less each time. But you'll see how now I'm starting to get very three-dimensional look here if I continue to kind of drag my tool. Now this is where I like to then turn it around. I can use this part to just smooth the flatness of it out. I can even hold this piece vertical here and kind of scrape the edges of that shape. And so I'm using these tools to kind of scrape the clay away. You can even use them to kind of push the clay back down a little bit. So now I've got that kind of angled look, and I've carved that piece away so it's three-dimensional. And in class I'll have this piece out so you can kind of observe the feel of that and what that three-dimensionality looks like. Now I'm going to work on the edge. So this is kind of going from almost like high to medium to low, like all three together because it's carving back in. Alright, now I'm going to work on the other side and do the same kind of a thing. And I'm going to have to treat this area in here, which if I pop this original example up again, this area I've just done here, I'm going to have to kind of treat this area in here the same and make it go back. And I've kind of already changed my mind. Then I'm going to have these hammers like rooted in the ground and in the front of the ground, but behind the Zen circle. So we'll get to that in a minute. But that kind of defines the organic process of creativity. Like I thought I wanted it one way, and then I'm like, oh, but I'd really like it to be this other way because I'm deciding now that I like it that way. So again, if you're changing things, on your original picture or original image, make sure you've got a good reason. So when I ask you, oh, that's not what you've got in your original image, why? Can you explain to me, like, what was your artistic reasoning for making this part, different now? It's not that I'll necessarily disagree with you or something, but I want you to be being thoughtful about why it is you are doing the things you are doing artistically. Okay, because that's important, not just to go at it and do whatever the heck you want, but go at it and then make a choice and say, oh, you know what, this isn't looking like I wanted it to look. I wanted it to look like something else, and then taking that and moving into action with that, rather than just like, I don't know, I just didn't know what to do, so I kind of chopped this part off, right? So be thoughtful about your actions. All right, so here we go. I'm getting this other side looking more sculpted and three-dimensional. And this tool, this flat part, you can actually use this, and if you gently like push it, you can kind of like scrape off little layers of clay too. I kind of like that, almost like wood carving with a chisel. If you've ever done wood carving, you'll know that you can use a chisel and kind of push it against the material of the wood and slice off just very small chunks at a time, and that's a nice way to make subtle changes in height. Okay. Good, so I've got that area honed down a bit. So it's taller up at the top, and it goes into the back and is a little bit deeper in the back. Now I'm going to work on this middle area here, and I'm going to have to carve away the pieces in between my roots, and I want to make sure that I leave enough of the tail of this Zen circle so that I have some of that to work with later. And here's the beginning part, the rounded snake-like head of the Zen circle right there that I just outlined. I'm just going to pull this material out. And this is the part where I might think about doing some additive sculpture later, because this might be kind of hard to carve away this ground area and not ruin the feel of my roots. So I think I'm going to use this as an opportunity to kind of get this low, middle, high situation happening, like the slanted situation, and then I'm going to go back and do the additive sculpture on the top of this. So that'll give me a chance to show it in the next video. So I'm just going to go right in, and I'm going to imagine that my hammer goes about that far down, and that my hammer here is overlapping underneath the rounded part of my Zen circle. Alright, now I've got this area kind of carved out bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to just angle this ground area so that it's got that sloping feel like the background does over here. And notice I'm still working on removing material. I'm not modeling anything really. I'm just removing the material. I'm trying to be careful and thoughtful about the way that I'm removing it so that I have the background doing exactly what I want it to be doing. Now this tree that I want to be higher, I'm going to have to treat it just a bit differently than this background area. Right? So notice how I'm going into the like sky area of the background. I'm going in and I'm actually making that deeper right now because now I've got this other piece here that I've just created as my background. You can kind of see if I wiggle that around, you can see this line right here that I've created. I'm going to create that same line over here in just a second. Okay, so I'm going to move this so the clay is still sloping. Now it's kind of this part's kind of hard because I'm having to work around the idea of this tree and get the tree slope in there as well as this clay kind of what should be sloping, but right here it's not because we've got the tree in the way. But you can still see I'm carving that background down. Okay, so now I've got that definition for the horizon line, like right there in the background, which is what we wanted. Kind of using the end of that to flatten down. Okay, now so I've got the kind of low, middle, high, and now I'm going to take the hammers and carve those down in the next video to another middle layer. So I'll probably have 1 or 2 middle layer videos and then my last video or 2 being higher levels. So there's kind of carving the middle level and preserving this deepest, lowest level and even actually making it a little bit lower than it already was.